Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books,
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we're doing a cool French noir book called Blacksad. And it's a very interesting book. It's an anthropomorphic noir book. So all the characters are aminals,
but humanoid animals.
Yeah, humanoid-ish. So think was it Robin Hood, the Disney Robin Hood? So yes, the foxes running around. Although those foxes had a little more animal, I think, than these ones did.
Yeah, most of the animals are in there. They only show animalistic qualities if they're like really in like a ragey kind of thing. Because even some like the main character Blacksad, he
doesn't have a tail.
Yeah, he doesn't have a tail. He's a cat. The only thing really cat about him is his face.
Right.
And that technically he is covered in fur. He kind
of looked. This is where they got the Cats
movie
designed.
Is you funny? Because I thought it was modeled after Idris Elba myself.
I was going to say, I was like, you know what? They should make a Blacksad movie, put Idris Elba back in that cat costume, and have him.
We already got the costume.
Yeah, we got it. You know, I don't know if he would, but like. But that's not a bad idea.
This would be a much better movie than the Cats movie.
This would be like 1,000 times better than that. Which I've seen twice. Seen it twice.
Yep.
I watched it with John in theaters. We paid money.
That was the last movie he saw in theaters before the pandemic. I just want to point that out.
The last movie I was able to watch in movie theaters was Cats. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking me to go see Cats. And I watched it again with Will, our buddy Will, a couple weeks ago, because he was like, "I've never seen Cats," and I'm like, "Well, I think you should."
When in Rome,
yeah,
let's do it.
Exactly.
I tried to get my wife to watch it, but she won't sit down. She started a little bit. She's like, "What's a Jellicle cat?" I'm done with this.
Yeah, what the fuck is this? So,
anyway, Blacksad.
Back to Blacksad. So it is a French comic, written by Juan Diaz Canales, and the art is by Juanjo Guarnido. So I hope I said that right. I don't know. I'm trying. But yeah, they wrote these, and apparently these came out in France or Europe at least in 2000. So this book is actually 3 books put together. There's like a big trade of it. 3, like, I guess in Europe, comics are like 50 pages long or 60 pages long, and they like come out every couple of years or something like that. So at least this one did. So this came out. This was put out by Dark Horse in America, and it came out as 1 volume of 3 stories. So there's 3 separate stories in here. One of them came out in 2000. The middle one came out in 2002, and the last one came out in 2005. So there's a good 5 years spread out in between these. We got very, like, the art in this is very cool. I think it's painted or some kind of like pastel or something. I don't know. It looked different than like a normal comic you'd see here in America. So I really, really like the artwork in this. What do you think about the artwork?
Yeah, the art was cool, and like I said, the only real animal aspect for most of the characters is the head. Some characters do have tails, but for even like I said, the main character is a cat, but only his head is cat. He's got 5-fingered human hands, and 5-fingered human feet, or 5-fingered 5-toed human feet.
Once again, Idris Elba calling you for Blacksad. So,
but then like he had, we'll get into the story, but like his main like police chief is a German Shepherd, and he has a tail, and we'll see other characters.
Like the dogs have tails.
Yeah, the dogs you see tails more.
Yeah, but maybe he cut his tail off like Goku or something.
Maybe he was too powerful.
He's like, I don't like this tail.
But we'll get into more of the but we say like everything else is very humanoid. There's a reason we know it's very humanoid, as this is a graphic novel, as we'll get into.
Adult
graphic novel.
So this isn't one for the children's.
No, this is 18 up for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The story material is definitely more for older people, and then there's some graphic scenes in these books that are definitely not for children. So basically every issue has at least some pair of tits in it. So
Yes.
I don't know how these cats have such humanish tits, but they do.
And only one. They don't have like 8 down their bottom.
Yeah. I know, this is weird. It would have been amazing if they drew it like that. Like if they just, this is what a cat looks like if it had big human boobs instead of little cat boobs or whatever. And then, yeah, so amazing. So, would have been creepier, I think.
Yeah, it would have been creepier.
So the first one in this is called Somewhere in the Shadows. And it's basically it's like a very run of the mill, like, where's my girlfriend story. Like,
yeah.
Like he finds out he's a private investigator. I think he's a private investigator. That's what it seems like. I don't know what they call them in, or if they even have them in Europe or whatever, but he never has like an ID that says like private investigator or anything, but you do have to have an ID and like a license to be a PI.
Well, he seemed like maybe he did work for the police before and now he's...
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure if he's actually a PI or is he like just
maybe he's just a detective.
Ex-detective that like the police chief's like, all right, you can look for stuff too without having a license or whatever. But yeah, so the first one is like, and I don't know what you thought about all these in general, but like I thought a lot of these were, so I should say this is like a Harvey Award winning, like Eisner Award kind of winning book. Like everybody was talking about it like, oh, this is fucking amazing. And then, so I got like high hopes from this. And then when I'm reading it, I'm like, I mean, maybe it's just because I've read too many crime books or something, but like nothing really stood out as like different or like, you know what?
I think it really comes down to the art. So the art in this is gorgeous.
Yes,
I think the stories are very like traditional gumshoe, very much by the numbers.
By the numbers.
That's what I mean. Like
realsies.
Like by the numbers. Like in the 3 stories we read, there is very little like actual like what like so like real. I would say maybe the middle one has a little more suspense and like
the middle one's the only one that had like a mystery I was trying to figure out. Like both the first one and the last one were like, okay. Like the twist or whatever, the like, who done it was like, oh, okay. There was no like thing for me that like, there was no like trying to figure it out as I was reading it or something. Like, like it just tells you who it is and you're like, okay.
And that's probably part of it is because they're not all, because every time a new whodunit comes out, they're almost like, oh, that's amazing. And it's because I would say probably the general populace is not like they don't like search it out.
I guess, but like in my mind, like, because I read like the Parker books and stuff, and in those, it's never like you're like who done it, but like you're like, how did he pull that one off or something? Like there's a question where you want to keep reading about well who did it, like or how did it happen or where's it going from here? I can't imagine him escaping X or what So, and I didn't really feel any of that with this. It was just kind of like I'm following his path. And then they tell us who the bad guy is, and then we get there, and then
we go to the next one.
That was the bad guy. All right, cool. Like I thought there was going to be a twist, and it wasn't the bad guy. That's why the second one had more. What? Like who's who? What's going on? Like mystery and stuff going on. But so anyway, back to the first one. The first one, he finds out that his I guess first love or one of his first loves, who's an actress. Winds up dead, and we're like, wait, like who? Like he's like, who could do this to her, and why would you kill her? And she's fine, and this is like right away you get like boobs on this first page, but she's like dead. So you're like, okay, this is a weird how they're showing it. It starts off very noir, like this would be like a LA Confidential or something like that. Like something from the 90s, maybe like this should be like a Sharon Stone. Oh, that's what they should do. They should have Idris Elba, bring back Paul Verhoeven, have him direct like a Blacksad movie that's half Basic Instinct, half LA Confidential kind of thing going on. And yeah, I like it. Just have that 90s erotic thriller vibe.
We're writing the main background.
Yeah, no one else take this idea from us. This is ours. We copyright it. So for all those who don't know, you should watch all those 90s erotic thrillers. They were pretty awesome. So
it's definitely a genre that people forget about that actually has some high quality
or at least funny. They're fun to watch. They're very dramatic, which is fun. But yeah. Anyway, so back to the story. So Blacksad finds out his girlfriend, who was an actress, his ex-girlfriend, who's an actress, like is dead. He's like, well, who could have done this? So he takes on the case just, out of his love for this girl, his memory of her. And like, I like how it goes back in the beginning and it like tells the story of them, like how they fell in love and all this stuff and like what happened, how they fell apart too.
Yeah.
Like basically they had a great relationship and then she had aspirations to be an actress and was like, oh, I'll fuck anybody that could give me a head. And he's like, but what about me? And then they broke apart because he wasn't okay with her like being manhandled by like Harvey Weinstein or whatever. And then like and
you mean orangutan Weinstein in this?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so yeah, he's trying to find out who like he can question about her. So he starts looking into it and he like goes to like a gorilla dude who's like a boxer and he's like, hey, weren't you hired for like a bodyguard for her one time, like, or like for someone that knew her or whatever?
Yeah, they were friends and he had suggested for him to be the bodyguard and he was like, I was for a while until she like fired me because she said she didn't need me anymore.
Yeah, and they're like, well, because she was getting her own bodyguards from like someone of her lovers or whatever and like her admirers, and so he's trying to track down these people. And like, this is the general stuff that comes up is pretty like straight, like, oh, he tracks that person down,
goes to another person.
Yeah, goes to another person.
He starts looking for another one. I guess this was her last boyfriend, Leon.
Yeah.
And he was a screenwriter.
Yeah, and you're like, well, who's this guy? And then like, out of nowhere, people start coming to try to kill him. Like someone sends like snake people and whatnot, like, or lizard people at least. Yeah. I don't know if they're snakes or lizards.
He's a lizard because when he he goes to like his he goes to the office where his girlfriend was working, and like the producer there is like, oh, my main actress shows up dead and my screenwriter's disappeared, and he's like, oh, he disappeared, huh? Okay. And so he goes to Leon's house, apartment or house or whatever, and he breaks in, and then there's like a cleaning lady that comes in. And he's like, oh, we're friends. I would just come in to get a book I let him borrow. And she's like, where is he? She's like, I don't know. He went on quote unquote vacation the last I heard, from the big guy with the big bulging eyes. And like, oh, okay. And then later, like when he's like walking down the street trying to figure this out, he gets attacked.
Yeah, he's like, bulging eyes? Who's got bulging eyes?
By this lizard guy with bulging eyes.
Yeah, this lizard guy apparently saw him go in the house and was like watching for someone. And yeah, like, I don't know. It just feels like Blacksad's not a very thoughtful detective, or like he should be one step ahead of these guys, but he's not. He's
not Batman.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in the Parker novels, he's always like in his head, he'll be like, well, I can't do this because then that guy will do that, so I gotta go along with this or that. Like he would have been like in a car watching the house being watched by this lizard guy and been like, okay, so there's gonna be trouble if I go inside. Better bring my gun. And then like, like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where you get like, he's cleverer than the bad guys, but
yeah,
it seems like Blacksad just kind of walks into, also his name's John Blacksad, which I thought was interesting. Like he's got a first name, John, but he's a cat person. I don't know.
They can have humanoid names if they're humanoids.
I guess.
They have a first and last name.
I guess. It's also, this takes place in,
although it would have been funny if it would have been like, Socks is
yes, yeah.
Socks is going down to meet Mr. Buttons, yeah,
Mr. Jingles or whatever. Yeah,
it would have been funny if they had it like the names that we give animals half the time.
Yeah. Also, I thought it was like I was going to say before. This also takes place in like the 30s or 40s or whatever, so it's like that gumshoe style back then. No, and in America.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like I didn't pick it up until the second issue. Like this is also like an alternate, like America, basically. Like this is all happening like in America.
If domestic animals
or humanoids,
like killed us all and then evolved into human bodies.
I guess, yeah. That we don't get that much of the backstory, but
yes. What's that movie with the sleep? Is it Sleepwalkers? No. What's that movie? The Stephen King movie where
the cat people.
The cat people. I can't remember the name of it.
I think.
It's something walkers.
I think it is Sleepwalkers.
Is it Sleepwalkers or Skinwalkers or no? God damn it! I don't know. Whatever.
I think it's Sleepwalkers.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking
Well,
about.
the mom and the son are cat people.
Cat people.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So like Blacksad gets chased by this, or gets confronted by this lizard guy who's trying to kill him, and I thought this was funny. It would have been funny in in the context of if they were actually like evolved domestic cats or whatever. But like Blacksad gets hit in the nuts by this guy when he's about to beat the shit out of, or when Blacksad is actually winning. This guy like kicks him in the nuts, and I thought it would have been funny. He was like, "I had those taken out when I was a kid," you know, like like I was neutered a long time ago or whatever. I thought that would have been funny, but yeah. So, like, basically, he just gets lucky everywhere. He's never like detectiving, other than like, hey, someone says you should go to this place. He's like, okay,
yeah. He's more in the right place at the right time.
yeah. So like, and that's kind of how he finds out where he's gonna go to each next place. Is something fell out of that guy's pocket, so now he knows, hey, I should go check with this person what's going on. And so like basically he just keeps following like these little clues around, and they lead him eventually to like the grave of someone, what is the name? It's like Noel something or whatever, or Noel. I'm sorry, not Noel. I wanted to say Noel because I'm like, wait, who is that? But it's Noel. It's an anagram for Leon, whatever the guy's last name is. So
yeah,
it's Noel Christock is the anagram for Leon, whatever his name was, the writer.
Yeah, so he's already been murdered, and
yeah, so he was murdered a while ago.
Yeah,
and so that's basically we find out. Okay, someone murdered him, and then someone murdered her. And why, we don't know why yet. And so then we find out like some big guys confront him at this graveyard when he just figured that out.
Big grizzly bear and rhino.
And a rhino, yeah. And they beat the shit out of him. And you're like, okay, these guys beating the shit out of him. What's going on? So it turns out they're like the henchmen for this toad person. And this toad person eventually eventually sends that lizard guy to try to kill him again. And he actually kills the lizard man and finds out that he's got a name on him, and the guy's name is like, what is it, Ivo Static.
Ivo Static.
Yeah,
Static.
Like that's what he finds. He kills the lizard dude in like a fight or whatever, and like he finds, oh, that's who it is. He's working for this guy, and so we're like, wait, who's that? We've never seen this. And then like the only clue that they left like for us to hang on this whole time was like guy with bulging eyes. Who could that be? So like this whole time, that's like the only thing we've been wondering potentially. What does that mean?
And I thought maybe it was the lizard first. The lizard guy's got bulging eyes.
Yeah, there's a couple different animals that have bulging eyes in this. But
But then finally when he confronts, he goes to the
then he's like, oh, it's
goes to the penthouse. Yeah.
So we go there, and it turns out
the rhino and the bear there. He's like, oh, okay, he's putting it together. Obviously, he like confronts them like secretly this time, and then he gets the upper hand on the rhino and the bear, and then he goes into
like a business. It's like a big tower like downtown. He's like with the corporate money is and stuff, and so he goes into this tower, and then confronts the guy on the top. The guy at the top is obviously the Ivo, whatever, and
the frog guy.
It's a frog.
Yeah, and boom, that's where the bulgy eyes are.
That's why he had bulging eyes, because he's a frog. And he's like, "You killed her." He's like, "Yep." Basically, like, I killed her because she was cheating on me with the writer.
Yeah, but hey, I see that you. And it was funny because he's like, "Well, I see you're good at figuring this out. I could use a guy like you on my staff." And he like tries to go and offer him like a job.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't. You killed my girlfriend. No amount of money is gonna make me forget that. He's like, I don't know. I got a lot of money. And he's like, no. And then,
no, go ahead. I think you're gonna say because you say because this was the best part. He's going. He's like, yeah, well, he's like, I don't think you're gonna kill me because you've got one thing on you. You've got like a conscience and whatnot. And Blacksad's like, well, yeah. What about you? How are you? He's like, well, you're forgetting one thing. I'm cold blooded.
Yeah.
Because he's a frog. Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun little like, and the smirk that he gives him.
Yes, like that little scene where he says, I've got cold blood. Then he looks at Blacksad like, haha, I got you. And then Blacksad looks at him and he's got super angry eyes. And then the next shot is him blowing his a hole in his head.
Yeah, through that was.
So yeah, Blacksad just kills this guy. Apparently he doesn't go to jail or anything.
Well, I think that's part of it. So at the very beginning, we mentioned he had an old buddy. I guess that's like the chief
shepherd, yeah.
And he's just the shepherd. Smirnov is his name.
He's a German shepherd dog.
Yeah, and he says like,
see, this is the thing though. I don't think he meant murder. He said like, I'll help you, because I like you. Like basically, you get a free pass on whatever happens.
I thought he was like, he's like basically, I'm being told like to not worry about the murders and whatnot, but I think so like I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah,
I'll,
I
like,
think
cover
you should go solve it, but not like murder the guy. That's what I'm like. Generally, the policeman isn't okay with a guy murdering someone.
True.
So I'm just throwing that out there. Like Batman and Commissioner Gordon is like, I want you to beat him up and tie him up, not murder.
Yeah, don't murder the Joker.
So
you got that one rule.
Yeah, that one.
Blacksad doesn't have that one rule. I did like this because they bring in the rhino and the bear at the police station, and they're like, we knew who killed our boss.
Yeah. And then like Blacksad walks in and is like, hey, and they're like, that's the killer. It's him. And he's like, who? What are you talking about? I don't know.
And the police chief is like, yeah, I don't know. He's got an alibi. Like him and I guess one of the other lead detectives is like a fox, and they're like, I mean, he was with so and so all day. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we just had drinks and lunch.
And they're like, it's a setup.
Yeah. So I mean, that was like basically like the first one did not wow me at all. But, and I was surprised because, like I said, I thought it was going to be like, a fucking award-winning story and everything too. But I think this won mainly for the art because the art is fucking spectacular.
It is. Well, and the Blacksad says right at the end, like now he's gone down a dark path and now he may not be able to go off of it. And to me, I also thought that like it's a little more of like a back end thing, but like he's a black cat, so maybe he's like that superstition of like always having bad things attribute. That's what I thought in the back of my head. Like, maybe that's where that was going with it.
Okay.
I was like, that's a little deep.
Maybe.
I know I'm reaching. Maybe I don't know for sure. I don't know what was in the. But this middle story, this one actually was like,
yeah, whoa. This was the one I was like, what's going on?
Like
in this?
There was a little bit of like suspense in it, and there was also like.
There's more mystery for sure.
And this was definitely one where I was like, oh, I would not give this to kid. Like this middle one was like
for
the
sure.
Most
Don't
intense.
give this one to a child.
Most intense for sure.
This one's called Arctic Nation, and you're kind of like, oh, what's that about? Snow? I'm like, yeah, okay. And so this one is all about like racism.
Yeah, racism in like the 50s, I guess, and 60s.
I think it's earlier than that. It's like 40s, 50s.
40s, 50s.
So it's got to be after the war because there's a bird in here that was in the war that fought Nazis, which was weird. I was like, wait,
so they were still Nazis?
So there were birds? yeah. There was still Nazis in this bird world or whatever, or this like animal world. Okay, interesting. But yeah, so there's racism with all these white animals, so like polar bears and. What are they, marmots and stuff or whatever?
To not make light of racism, but I did think it was funny that all of the like the pure white race animals were like polar bears, Arctic fox. There was like an Arctic like was some kind of weasel, minx, a white walrus, like all of the like racist animals.
Bengal
like,
tiger, a tiger. What is it?
Siberian tiger, yeah. Which they still have black stripes.
I don't know.
But either way, they did make it seem like only the white animals are like the
right.
The pure.
Well, they even say like because Blacksad is a black cat, but he's got a little white muzzle, and so they even like you got some mix on your chin or whatever. Or like no, they say there's like actually like a Black Panther analogy in here too, where like there's the white racist guys and there's like the black racist guys, and they're like the all black animals are like.
It's like
we gotta stick together.
It's like a bull, a horse, I think a Rottweiler dog.
And they're like completely black, and they look at Blacksad and they're like, "What's that on your face?"
Yeah, you got some white shit on your face.
Yeah, so they get all mad at him because he's got like a white patch on his face. So it's like that's weird. But we see the comic starts off with like someone has been lynched, or a black bird, I guess, has been lynched.
It looks like a black vulture
in a public square. So we see this has been an issue coming on, and Blacksad gets called by someone. Like a teacher, and she's like, "Hey, I need you to find someone." Like one of my students went missing. She's a little girl, but no one seems to give a fuck about it. I went to like
Not even her mom is really sad about it.
Yeah.
At least outwardly.
Yeah, and so like there's an issue, and we gotta talk about this. Oh, one thing about this comic that was interesting that isn't in American comics, and I wondered if this was just this comic specifically, or like all European comics. But instead of having like a page be the full page of that conversation and then maybe lead into something on the next page, they have like the last panel on almost every page cuts to another area, so you're like already going to that area by the time you turn the page. So like, for example, in this scene, Blacksad is talking to the teacher in a schoolyard, like a playground, and then he's like, okay, I'll take care of it, don't worry about it. And then the last panel on the page is some like white supremacist weasel or fox yelling about it in a different setting. Then when you turn the page, we're at that setting.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's interesting. It's like a lead in. The last panel always leads in to the next page, but not like American comics where they'd say Conan would be having a conversation with someone, and they'd be like, you should go to the land of this where they have jewels and women, and he's like, and then the last panel would say, women, you say, and then so in your head, oh, he's gonna go, but they don't show like him traveling to that area or whatever, or arriving at that city or whatever, like, so it's like we lead in, but we don't cut to that next thing or whatever. So it was interesting. I thought it was a different way of telling that I noticed. But yeah, anyway, so we cut back to this like racist rally that's going on with this fox, and he's like, they will not be here forever. We're the pure race, and like, he's going off. And we noticed that we thought it was funny, their symbol, which is supposed to be kind of Nazi-ish, is actually like a snowflake.
It's a snowflake in the circle in like a red or a black patch.
Yeah, so it's like obviously a fascist symbol or whatever, but it's just a snowflake, which is interesting because snowflakes. And then and then also like I don't know, it seems like a weird, because I guess because they're thinking it's like snow animals are all white.
All white, yeah. Well, like he's even like we're chosen by God ourselves. Like they get really into like the background.
I thought some of this was a little on the nose. What do you think about some of this like racist stuff or whatever? Like,
very much like some of it was very like, and especially because of some of the themes we're living in right now currently, like this also felt like very on brand of like, oh wow, like I definitely see
right, but I thought it was a little too on the nose sometimes.
Too on the nose?
Yeah, like it's a little pandering or whatever, instead of like making it realistic-ish. It was more like,
it's like, oh no, they're Nazis.
Yeah, or it was just, there was no like gray or anything, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you'd be like, an example, we'll get to it a little bit later, but there's a character who's like in love with a black woman or a black character, and then like he moves to a city where there's all these racists, and he's like, hey, you know what? My wife is black. Fuck her. And I'm just like, it seems too fast or whatever. Like
I'll give you that.
Yeah. So like stuff like that, I just felt it was a little too on the nose or whatever, like or too like accepted or whatever. But they're trying to tell a story in 50 pages, so I get it.
Yeah, because each one of these is that. So
yeah.
And he met him first at the one of the street corners when the first hanging occurred, and then he ran into him again here when they're having their little white supremacist rally. There's a little like weasel character. He's like brown and white, and I guess he's like some kind of reporter, and he thinks Blacksad is a reporter at first too. And he's like, oh man, we keep running into each other. Like I see like he's like, I see him as this like little fast talking weasel dude.
Yeah.
Just trying to weasel his way into everything. And
hence the weasel.
Yeah. Hence the weasel. I mean, I don't know what he is exactly, but he looks like a little weasel.
Yeah, I think he's a weasel. Well, because there's like weasels, and then I don't remember what they're called. Is it a mink?
He's like a mink or a mongoose, yeah.
Mongoose are brown and they're not weathered.
That's all the mongoose family. They're all mongooses.
Oh, but mink are bigger.
But they're differently. Yeah.
So
maybe I don't. Sarah and I watched a thing on this. My wife and I watched this thing recently, actually, on all the different types of
of marmots.
Yeah, and I don't remember the order of them all except for the like actual
ferret.
Yeah, like
I don't know. I just remember in like what's that movie? What's the Coen Brothers movie? The Big Lebowski, where he's like, what is that, a marmot?
What is it, a marmot?
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's the white ones. Whatever the ones from the snow are. I think it's minks. I think they're mink. Or minks. I don't know what the plural is. Mink guy.
Mink.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah,
Minkies.
yeah. So, yeah, they're like in this, and they're like the badasses or whatever. They're the they're the yeah, the guys like the enforcers going around town being assholes to everybody. So, but yeah, basically after this rally, they like see Blacksad and they're like, hey, like fuck you, like I don't like you, and you know you shouldn't belong in here. And then they go like there's a diner that says like no
cut.
I'll say this: they use some language that I think is just the translation, possibly, or it's supposed to be as provocative as it is. But they say the word "coloreds" and stuff in this, so I mean there is some of that too, where it's not PC necessarily. So
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of the translation or if
it's better they use that word and they're using it in the context of showing the racism and its colored animals. And they didn't use like the N word or anything.
Well, I couldn't imagine the music. That would be too
much. Yeah.
Yeah. But
but it's there because there's also like a crow in the bar, and he's like, I guess he's also like blind. He's like, oh yeah, I fought in the war. I didn't realize this. You know, this place was because they were like, hey, what are you doing in here, buddy? And he's like, I guess gambling on one of those little like penny slots that are on like bar countertops sometimes.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I couldn't tell your beautiful white fluffy coats. I'll get out of here, guys. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And then they're like, get out of here. What are you doing in here? You have black cat. Didn't you read this? Can't you read the sign too?
Yeah. He's like, fuck you. And then they kind of fight or whatever.
Yeah.
No big deal. But yeah, so then they're like, okay, we got to figure this out. Like something's going on with, we've heard tell that, we're talking about a kid missing. Well, we heard that there's this guy in this supremacy movement who apparently likes children or something. So we got to like explore that. And the guy that we're talking about is this polar bear guy.
He's like the main sheriff in town.
Yeah, which is weird because I thought the dog. I mean, how could you have this guy and the shepherd?
Well, I think this is a different town.
Is it?
Yeah, because he goes to this little. This is a little
I
town.
misunderstood then. I thought this was like the same city, just like
No, this is like a smaller town that they moved. Like the polar bear who had moved here too. He's the character we're getting into. He moved here from the big city to this smaller town, and that's why it's not like a whole police thing. It's a like small sheriff's department.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around because some of the people he meets wear like dapper suits and stuff, and they're supposed to be like high class.
I think that's just because of the time period.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people wear more and more.
I don't fucking know.
They're also all animals. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, who knows? But anyway, they go to this polar bear, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's got like an American flag and a Confederate flag
behind him.
And he's talking about he's got a saber from General Lee himself and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting. Like, so they're fully going into like the history of us, but then they're changing it to like animals. So it's weird, but also interesting.
And they see a picture of him and his polar bear wife on his desk, and he's also got a picture of like him and like I guess scouts or like a choir that he also leads of children.
Yeah.
So it's like they're trying to piece together what
like you like kids, huh? He's like, how dare you talk about like the
children like they're just children.
Yeah. And then they like pick up the picture of him and his wife, and the weasel goes, "Oh, you got a pretty hot daughter there," or whatever. And he's like, "Get out of my office," or whatever. Like he freaks the fuck out because how dare you say his wife is his daughter, and then two that his wife is hot. I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You don't comment. You got a hot wife.
Well, of course you do. You don't say that. But yeah. So anyway, then we cut to like he's trying to figure out what's going on. So he goes to the mom of the kid who's missing, and she's like a waitress at a drive-in movie, which I guess they had
They still had drive-in movies, then yeah.
No, but I mean like I didn't know that they had people bring you food at drive-ins. I thought you went to go get your food and then.
Well, they used to have the little you could order from too. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, anyway, she's a waitress at a drive-in movie theater, and then like he follows her back to her place after he tries to talk to her, but she doesn't like wanna.
Well, she's like, I'm working. Like we'll talk later, and she looks like a brown bear kind of character.
Yeah, I picture. So if he's gonna be Idris Elba, I'd have Drew Barrymore play her.
Really, I was
Who do you think?
for her. I was thinking someone like she's
I'm thinking in the 2000s too. I'm thinking like
in
who
the
would have played
2000s.
them?
Okay, I was thinking like Regina King or something.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could see that too. But I don't know. To me, she just seems like, especially from. So this is another thing. He goes to her house and she's got like she's taking off her clothes and he's standing there and he sees on her chest there's like a white mark.
Yeah, she's got like a white patch of fur.
Mixed race because she's got a white patch of fur and like, but most of her skin is dark or whatever.
Yeah.
So and the patch of fur is over her breasts, and she's very voluptuous.
Again, so the only bare quality is her face. She's got like and it's like slender snout or whatever.
Yeah, but she looks like like a Victoria. She looks like Naomi Campbell or some shit. Like, like straight up model or whatever. So so she's talking to him and she's like, he's like, doesn't it bother you? Your kid's gone, and then they have like, she's like, of course it does, but like, I don't,
this town's racist, and like, of course they're not going to look for a young black girl. So and I'm going to go to the sheriff of the town who, he's obviously kind of pervert, so it was interesting and they play up on that, the pervertiness maybe of possibly of the sheriff, but then there's also this racism undertone of this town too. So
undertone.
Outwardly,
overtone.
Overtone. I should say,
we'll call this an overtone. But and then she like slaps him because he suggests like maybe, or he's trying to figure out who the dad is of this kid.
Yeah,
and because that might be the clue of who the fuck took him or took her. And he suggests that it's like there's like a tiger in this town that has they say retarded son, but like a mentally handicapped cheetah son. Yeah,
and I guess at one point they were friends and she was helping him with things, and they're like, oh well, you were romantically linked with him, no? And she was like, why would you say something like that? Like, I guess basically we were friends, and like I was taking care of him more than anything.
Yeah, and she slaps the shit out of him, which I thought was interesting. So anyway, she's like, how dare you say that? And then like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, he's like, okay, so he goes back and meets up with his weasel friend, and they're like, I guess now they're in like a supermarket, and this is cool because this is
where like the Black Panther crew comes in because there's all
they got berets.
Yeah, and it turns out that they're actually like shoe polishing themselves because like he's like, hey, you want me to get that snout of yours? They walk in and they're like, we don't buy into this fucking bullshit like racism or whatever, and then he like pulls out one of the horses. Comes out and he's like, let me get that thing on your face. And he like goes to rub, I guess, shoe polish or something on his face. And Blacksad like grabs the gun that's in his belt and like basically is about to shoot him in the stomach. And he's like, don't fucking touch me. He's like, okay. So now we know there's like kind of two violent sides on this or whatever, two extremes, where they're so pro-black or whatever that they're like, if you have any mixed race, you're not okay either or whatever. Yeah. So they're like the two extremes. They never really come back in this. They never like fight them or anything. So I thought it was kind of weird that they had them in this, but I guess just to show.
I think just to show the contrast.
Yeah.
And so now they're going to stake out the. So they're gonna split up now.
Yeah. So the weasel and Blacksad are like, we should split up. The weasel's gonna go stake out the wife's house of the polar bear. Mrs. Polar Bear or whatever. And then Blacksad's gonna go talk to the tiger guy who's supposedly the grandpa of the dad of the father of the child. So he's the father of the incapacitated son, the mentally disabled son.
Yes.
And this was such a weird scene, I thought. Like, so there's a tiger and he's playing tennis on his personal tennis court. And then he's playing with his son, who is a cheetah.
A cheetah.
So I was like, is that why he's retarded?
Yeah, I was like, is he just... to me, it made it seem like, oh, he's just adopted, and so he's like the black sheep of the family.
I don't know. I just thought, are they making a comment on cheetahs? Or are they making, like, compared to, like, that's how tigers see cheetahs? Or is he actually disabled? But I will say this, it's potentially offensive how they... show this character,
how they draw the cheetah. He definitely does not look as put together as the other animals.
No,
his clothes are looser and baggier.
Let's say he's like Officer Doofus in like
in the scary movie.
in Scary
That's
Movie,
horrible.
or even Beans and Franks and what's that movie? The Ben Stiller movie where something about Mary. That's what
Oh, so, okay.
yeah,
I haven't seen
she's
that
got her
one.
brother who's mentally disabled. So yeah, like he's, I don't know, he's dressed very weird, but he's in like tennis clothes that obviously he didn't put himself in or whatever. And then like he's trying to play tennis with his dad, but he's sucking. It's basically his dad just hitting balls at him.
Pretty much.
So I'm like, is that what his dad was trying to do, or is he actually trying to play tennis? Is he just pissed at his son and he's like hitting tennis balls at his kid? So I don't know, it's weird, but basically nothing comes of this because this dad is like, of course she didn't fuck my son. Like, what are you, stupid or something? You know,
Yeah.
like he's like, oh, my bad. You know, it's just the rumors or whatever. And he's like, I don't know who started those, but it's not your fucking business. And like, how dare you or whatever. So he leaves. Then we come back to the weasel, and the weasel is watching the polar bear's wife's house. And who comes by the polar bear's wife's house but the fox that was like
Arctic fox.
leading the
His name is Hux.
yeah, Hux, who's the head. He's like the right hand man of the polar bear, but he's like the guy that does the rallies and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So he's whoever the right hand man to Hitler was. Himmler.
Goebbels.
He's Goebbels. He's the Goebbels of this crew or whatever. So he shows up at the house.
And he's like, what's he doing here?
Yeah, so he sneaks in the window, and we find out he's giving the wife the old 1-2.
Yeah, and it's
graphic.
It's graphic. There, when you see a fox doing doggy style, and it is truly
with a polar bear.
with a polar bear.
Who doesn't look like a polar bear as you would think.
No, again, she's got. So like she's got a polar bear head, but she also has a long, flowing blonde hair, like you would think, like blonde bombshell kind of hair.
Yeah.
And then
and her body just looks like Sharon Stone from the 90s or whatever. You know?
Yeah, just very, very chiseled and big boobs.
Yeah, there you go. So you know, they are very humanoid. You know, they have
Yeah. And that's the thing. So she doesn't have a tail, like even like a stubby polar bear tail.
Yeah.
But he has a big bushy Arctic fox tail.
Well, of course he does. Look at that Arctic tail. And apparently he's okay with like her chest, unless I don't know if she colors her chest to be white.
We don't know anything about that yet.
Oh, sure. I'm spoiling a little bit of this, but basically we find out she's mixed race or whatever later. So, but like she's got a black spot on her fur, and so like I don't know if she's covering that or not when they're together, but you know, whatever. So either way, he's like taking pictures of this. He's like, fuck yeah, I got these awesome shots of this guy fucking the polar bear's wife. He's done. Like, we're gonna totally like show this shit to him. And so Blacksad's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to the mother and tell her like, oh, look, it's like, sorry, I accuse you of fucking the, you know, special needs guy, and also like, you know, we're trying to figure this out. We think it's something to do with the polar bear now. And so then he gets to her house and she's dead. She's like totally killed and like fucked up. So then
he goes and confronts the polar bear and his wife. They're coming out of like church.
Out of church, I believe. Yeah. So the polar bear and his wife are coming out of church, and Blacksad's like, you motherfucker. And then there's an interesting little thing. The Hux comes up to be like, how dare you talk to them? And then Blacksad's like, I'm surprised you're standing here next to his wife. Like, I heard you and his wife have a lot in common.
Yeah, he's not like outwardly saying it, but he's basically like, man, you're really who are you defending? The sheriff or his hot wife, huh?
Yeah. And so like he's like, I heard you know a lot about giving it to his hot wife, but not quite that out of it. In fact, you could say, I saw you fucking his wife. I mean, wait,
scratch that last one.
That last one. Yeah, so then the polar bear's like, I'll meet you at home, honey. I'm going to go do the choir practice with the kids. And they leave this kind of open to interpretation. They don't outwardly say he is or isn't an actual pedophile, but the rumor is the polar bear is a pedophile, and he's doing this choir with the kids. He does put a lot of special attention on one specific seal, but I assume that's because he's a polar bear and he's getting ready to eat the seal.
But it is, but like also it's hard to tell because like they're how quiet they're all running away, and the one seal's like thanks for the good practice, whatever, and he like picks her up. He's like, of course, here's a little candy, and then
he smacks the seal on the butt and goes like, now go on, scamp. So you're like,
you can't tell if he like actually, or is he just being like a
setup or like, or is he just like a nice old man who doesn't quite know boundaries still anymore?
I think that's what it leans to as we get on.
That's what I think, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's
they don't really go into it enough for me to 100% say. But basically, the fox shows up, the Arctic fox, and is like, okay, like here you go, here's the keys. I took your wife home. But hey, you didn't believe any of that shit that they said, right, about me and your wife? Huh? You didn't, right? And then like, of course, that makes him like more suspicious. So then right away, the polar bear like closes the door and starts beating the shit out of this fox. And he's like, you should never fuck my wife or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, we'll see, Beth. He's like, basically gather the boys. We got
business to talk about. And he says he's like, Hans, you don't seriously think I would fuck your wife? He's like, my wife would never do something like that, and blah blah blah, and yeah. So like basically they're just fighting over her, but like everybody knows now you're fucking my wife, and now Arctic Fox is like, shit, I gotta cover my ass. So they go to meet. They have their big KKK meeting or whatever, and then the polar bear goes back home while they're getting all that prepared, and he sees the wife and he's like, how could you? He confronts her basically.
Yeah, you kind of see her because she's got a little more open shirt. It looks like maybe she does powder or something because I don't.
Yeah, you don't see her mark.
See a black mark or anything.
But this is the weird thing. This is the part I got confused on a little bit. So apparently, he's like, tell me there's nothing between you and Huck, and she's like, what do you mean? You know I don't care about that stuff or whatever. And he's like, come on, you don't even let me fuck you or whatever. Like basically, she's like, well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but that's none of your business, kind of thing. And he's like, but I've been wanting to fuck you for so long, and you never let me fuck you. So I'm like, wait, they've been married for how long?
How long in there? Yeah,
and he's never had sex with his wife. That would be a red flag if I was the polar bear. Or, I don't know. It's weird. But then he like starts freaking out, and I was like, oh shit, is he gonna like rape her or some shit? But like he freaks out on her. Then because she accuses him of like fucking the maid or whatever, and being like you're the one who like fucked the dirty black maid or whatever, and so like that you have her or whatever. And
he's like, I never did that.
Yeah, but we don't know what he did, So basically he's like, get out of my sight, and she's like, fine, I will. And so yeah, then we cut to the actual meeting of the clan or whatever we're calling it.
Yeah, Blacksad also meets up like right in between with he confronts that crow guy again. He sees the crow guy because he's got a camera that looks just like his friend's camera.
Oh yeah,
and he's like, hey, where'd you get that camera? He's like, oh, it was given to me. I don't know because I don't see anything. Yeah. And he's like, well, you're gonna take me who to give it to. He's like, okay, I'll take you, because he like threatens them or whatever because he can't fly.
Yeah,
but he's got a gambling problem, so I guess he's in debt to some of these people or somehow. And
yeah, so basically, I guess the weasel's missing. Yeah. And so this guy has his camera, and he's like, take me to where the people are that had his camera, and so they go there.
Yeah, they all end up. Everybody's at the same place where there's
which is like an old abandoned plane yard or something. It's like an airplane hangar or something.
Yeah.
And so in there's like the polar bear who's in like this KKK looking red,
like the Grand
like a blood
Wizard
red
or
suit.
something.
Yeah, he's like the head of it. There's like crosses burning, everything. The whole 9 yards of. This is the KKK, right?
Yep.
And so at first he's like, all right, let's begin then. And then Hux walks up and goes, of course, boys, go ahead. And they jump the polar bear in his red suit, and then they tie him up, and they put him on like a stage to hang him. And he's like, what are you doing? And they're like, we knew it was you. You like mixed races because you like fucked a black person or whatever,
and also you're doing something to our children.
Yeah, and you're like a kitty fiddler or whatever. And so like he's like, what? And so like they basically hang him because they're like, oh, you're a sick pervert, hang him. And they hang him for that. So he fucking dies. I thought this was like a pretty fucked up like.
He said he's being framed, and Hux is like, yeah, well, I'll take care of your wife. Don't worry about it. So like that's why I was
I'll take
also
care
like,
of your wife.
It's also like, well, maybe they were setting up a little.
Yeah, maybe the wife and Hux were setting it up. And so so basically they hang him, and then we see there's someone who's got the weasel. The weasel's next to get hung in line, and the guy who's holding the weasel's got black eyes or black like eyeshadow around his eyes, and he looks very surprised that they hung the polar bear. And then we see, oh, that person is actually Blacksad in a mask. He's pulling the old switcheroo, and so he's like, "When I tell you, jump," and so they're like, "Jump!" And then they jump, and they push that cross down, and it starts a fire. And basically, everybody's like, "Oh, whatever, just like leave him inside, and they'll burn alive." They're trying to find the kid, because the kid's in here. They find out because turns out the bird. This is actually where the bird lives. He lives in one of the planes because he was a pilot in World War II.
Back in the war.
The war, and so he lives in one of the bombers or whatever, and so that's where they're keeping the child.
Yeah, and we find out Hux confronts him, and he's like, "We should get the child out," and he's like, "No, we're gonna basically burn the evidence of everything. You too, since you're." Basically, he was holding the child for Hux, to like kind of pin everything and like
so like it was setting him up to be like the kitty fiddler or whatever, like the child, the pedophile who's kidnapping children. And I guess even if they're black, that matters to the rest of society. So but apparently they cared about it too or whatever. So yeah, like they're setting him up. They were setting the polar bear up because he wanted to fuck his wife or be with his wife. And so they get the kid, they bring the kid back. They're like, okay, cool, we saved her. This was sad too. I thought like the bird got shot in the confusion or whatever, because he fought Hux and they kill Hux like while they're fighting, and the bird got shot.
Oh, no, they don't kill Hux.
Oh, they don't kill him, right?
No. I think he gets injured too, but he gets away.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bird gets mortally.
And he's like, wounded. Promise you'll take me to Vegas. He's like, but Hux, you have a gambling problem. He's like, I know, I just want to see the bright lights of Vegas. He's like,
you're blind.
He's like, okay, we'll fly there, buddy. He's like, yes, the bright lights of Vegas. He's like, we're going there now, pal. You can see the bright lights. You can feel the heat of Vegas. And they just walk away as his plane like burns, and he burns alive, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Blacksad picks up the kid, the missing child, and the weasel guy walks with him, and they walk out of the.
Yeah, they walk out. So then, so now the kid's back, but now it doesn't have a mom. So that's like super fucked up because his mom got killed, or her mom got killed. And then, so now Blacksad's like, well, I'm going to go confront Hux at his stupid fucking car shop or whatever. So he goes there, and Hux, like, he's like talking to him. He's like, so I know you did all this. Like, you're the one who did all this shit. Like, you're an asshole, and we're gonna have you prosecuted.
And Hux is like underneath one of the cars working on it.
Yeah, and then he's like, got your tongue, and he pulls him out like with his foot, like he's on one of those creepers, and he pulls him out.
Yeah.
And there's a screwdriver in Hux's eye. He's dead. It's like, da da da. Well, who did that?
Who killed Hux?
So then, this is what I was talking about. Well, this is actually like a who done it, because if it's not Hux who set everything up, then who did? And so then we see Blacksad's getting ready to go, and he sees the pictures. He's going to the funeral of the polar bear, and then he's going there actually to confront the mom or the wife. And this was funny, I thought, how he confronts her. Everybody leaves except the wife. So he goes up to talk to the wife, and he's like,
and because she goes also lay a rose in front of Dinah. That's the mom of the little girl's grave as well.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, what are you doing that for?
Yeah. And so he walks up, and she's like, what do you mean? And he like rips open her shirt. You can see like her like Madonna pointy bra or whatever, and then but she's got a black spot on her chest.
Yeah, she's got her.
It's like the reverse of her sister who was killed. We find out they're sisters.
They were sisters.
There was a black sister with a white spot and a white sister with a black spot. And so because she could pass, basically we find out what happened with like the dad and everything. So the polar bear dad fell in love with the mom, and then they moved.
And she was a like a black bear.
Yeah, she was a black bear. He was a polar bear, and it shows them like cavorting in the wilderness or whatever. And he's showing you, look at the fish I caught or whatever. And she's like, haha, you're so funny. And then like, then they like go to this town that they're at now.
Yeah, they moved to this small town.
They moved to this small town where apparently the polar bear gets in with the white guys who are in power and is apparently listening to them and being like, you know what? My black wife is disgusting or whatever. So like we don't like black people. And then he finds out she's pregnant and like that makes it even worse. So he like,
abomination.
yeah, he's like, it's abomination. So he drives her out to the woods and drops her off. He's like, have fun dying in the woods of cold. And so turns out the mom didn't die. She had twins. She was a poor single mother who grew up with the twins. One was black, one was white. Huh?
So she raised them for a little bit, but then she dies when they're young.
Yeah. And then the sisters, knowing who their dad is, came up with a plan to get back at him where they set up where, so it turns out that she is the daughter of the polar bear, as we find out right now.
Yeah.
So she's like, being white, like wined and dined these people and then like married my dad, but never had sex with him, as they said earlier. So
yeah,
there was no weird incest thing, even though that's weird. And
no, but I guess it was to get at him like, oh, this is something that you can't have, I guess.
I guess.
I don't know.
And also it sets up like she's going to fuck Hux and then that'll make him jealous. And also,
and he makes her hire Dinah to be like their maid or whatever. And it sets up like,
yeah, the sister, she hires he's like, I need some help at the house. Hire my black sister, but he doesn't know it's her sister.
Yeah.
And
that is able to start a rumor of him.
And like we said, they're attractive looking bear twins or whatever. So he starts looking at the maid because she's not putting out, the wife isn't putting out. And so then there starts rumors, even though apparently he never did do anything with the maid sister.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Apparently, I don't know. She's got a child. We don't know who the dad is. That's all I'm saying.
True, we never
learned who the dad was. It was a big secret. She said pervert. I thought the dad actually did have sex with her or something, and then it was like a big fucking.
That would be even worse. I would assume it's not.
Yeah, I don't know how far they want to go in this comic, but they never really say. So they leave it open on that part. That was like one of the few things. Like you're telling us this big secret, but it's not really making 100% sense. But whatever. So anyway, she starts having sex with Hux, the wife, and telling him he won't fuck me, he'll fuck the black maid though. And so that's why Hux now has all this, we're gonna get him for like race mixing
and he comes. That's why I said I think it's like they come up with the idea of the child stuff because they were like,
they want to make it seem like he's a kitty fiddler or whatever.
Yeah.
So and then it turns out she killed Hux afterwards because she went to go visit him and he's like, finally you can be with me, and then she like stabbed him in the eye with the screwdriver, and then we find out Hux was the one who actually killed her sister too, because I don't remember why, but he was basically like he was questioning her and he didn't know that it's his lover's sister because she's black, and so he figured, she's black, I'll just kill her, whatever, who cares. And so then this story ends with Blacksad going to look at the daughter at the school, and she's playing with all the kids, even the zebra who's black and white. And yeah, basically it just leaves it at that. Like,
and I guess like the teacher's gonna take care of her for now or something.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Like, I thought some of it was a little heavy handed on the race stuff. They could have done a little bit better, but it was the most like mystery filled one.
Definitely.
And then so that was like the best one. That was the one that was like the most compelling to read. I went through that one really quick. And then the third one, which I don't think we should need to go into because there was not even a mystery in this really too much. And this episode's almost an hour long already, and I feel like there's not much to talk about in this issue.
No, I do think we just highlight that in this one, Blacksad is definitely like trying to find love again.
Yeah, that's like the main story. It's like his story arc is he went from like being so hurt from being in the first one where his ex-love died, and then he's not even thinking about love anymore right now. To this one, he actually falls in love with a girl, goes to meet, or like sets up a date to meet her and like marry her or whatever, and then he can't make it.
He can't make it because of other stuff that happens. Basically, there's an old teacher that he had that I guess he was close with. Come to find out,
Who's an owl?
he's an owl. Yeah, I did Otto the owl. I like that.
So and this is definitely like, it's called Red Soul. It's about the Red Scare and like these. It's about like Operation Paperclip, where they had these Nazis come back to America and like help them, develop bombs and stuff, or like use their science for the space program and shit like that.
Yeah.
So like Blacksad in school had this teacher who was apparently his favorite teacher, who was apparently a Nazi, and there's like pictures of him like with Hitler.
Yeah. So like he was up there. And
did you see? Is that actually a picture of Hitler?
And it's Catler.
It's a Catler. Okay, cool. That's
Catler.
Yeah. So Hitler looks
or
like
Kittler, maybe Kittler.
Kittler. There you go. But yeah, so it. Yeah, this one just didn't really have a mystery to me. It was like the mystery, the big like reveal was he was a Nazi, and it was like, oh,
well, yeah, but we already kind of figured that because of how he said. And like the thing is, like, there's also like like you said, the Red Scare kind of going on in the background. There's a chicken rooster, pardon me, who is like McCarthy-esque, and like he's like going after people who like are. Like these people who now like this teacher is now outspoken about using like nuclear for like good things and
right, yeah,
and there's like
he's trying to change his path because he was a Nazi,
and he and this big group of people who are all like very like
they're basically the Allen Ginsberg and all those like beatnik
Andy
poets
Warhol,
and
like all the different like people who are like very much like we want to be forward thinkers, but we're also hip and cool.
Yeah.
And
the guy that made Naked Lunch. I don't know, all those guys.
All those people.
Yeah.
And so like one by one, it's going through them either getting accused and being arrested for like possibly being communists or being murdered.
Right. And this is the weird thing though. So they're like the thing is they're saying these people are treasonous, right? That's why they're able to do the McCarthy hearings, is because they're saying these people are trying to commit treason. And you're supposed to be like, oh, how horrible, they're rounding up innocent people. But then it turns out, no, they were being treasonous, because one of the guys is a painter who was like painting these art pieces that were being sold to like certain people. And they actually had like the formula for the H-bomb.
Yeah, the nuclear
and they were
stuff
being sent to Russia.
Yeah.
So like if you did like a scan of it with the X-ray machine, you would see the formula, but on top it just looked like red shitty painting or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
like, well, wait a minute. So they were
they were okay. Like then it was justified, these hearings, because they were actually catching real treasonous communists that were trying to overthrow American secrets, or at least
I think part of it was maybe they weren't all, because there was a little infighting with a couple of
some of them were less. Some of them were just like, the government is fascist or whatever, and like, let me write my poems. And then some of them were like, yeah, the government is fascist, and or the government's bad, but I'm also a Nazi or a communist spy or whatever. So like, that was like the other half of it was like, so it was justified on some parts or not. Like, it was weird. It didn't have the mystery, but also it weirdly justified some of the stuff that they were trying to say was wrong.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones he falls in love with one of the writers from the group. Her name is like Alma.
Yeah.
And she's like one of the progressive writers who's like, everybody should have equal rights, and she's definitely one of
those progressives.
She's one of the like the least controversial in the group for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not saying anything that's like,
she's just a writer who puts pen to paper and is like, everybody should have equal rights. Everybody should have this and that. Like, she's definitely like the least controversial.
Yeah. So he falls in love with her, but what happens is basically he gets brought in by the FBI as well while they're rounding up people for this McCarthy hearing, basically, and he misses the date that he set up with her at Niagara Falls, and so she leaves, and that's it. He never gets anything. I believe she leaves a letter for him or something. And
yeah, it's a letter in one of the books. I guess she wrote some jazz music that they were listening to. I think
some of that jazz.
Yeah, more jazz. It's been a theme in some of our comics recently.
Yeah. So I will say this one was like the least compelling, especially by the end of it. I was like something's building, and then like nothing happens, and I was like, are you fucking serious? That's the end. That's the end. Like nothing happened. So
yeah, like you said, like there's a little bit of murder of some of the people. There's like an alligator guard character who was kind of cool.
Right, but it's mostly like, okay, obviously that's the FBI and stuff. So it was so allegorical to what actually happened or things that were actually happening that it was kind of like, okay. Like one of the guys that always hated the owl in this group is a monkey, and he starts he confronts the monkey, and he's like, tell me why you hate him. And he pulls open his shirt, and you see like, oh, he's got numbers on his forearm.
Number on
like,
his
oh
arm.
Shit, he was like a Holocaust victim monkey.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Why is this a secret? Like, wouldn't everybody in the group already know this about you? Like, but it was revealed to us and Blacksad, like this is why I hate him. And it's like, well, doesn't he know that you were a Holocaust victim because you're all friends in this thing?
Yeah, you've got this like intellectual group. Why is it everybody know each other?
Yeah, and we know each other's names.
Sorry. But you know each other. What's going on? Chowder heads.
Yeah. So it was just weird. And like I said, it was also weird that they actually gave the McCarthy hearing some kind of justification because half of the people were actual spies giving the H-bomb secrets to Russia. So it was kind of like, all right. Like, so were they bad or not? Like, so, but yeah, you definitely, like I said, this one wasn't like the best one, but the art was still fantastic in this. And the story was moving in a way I thought it was going to end. So it wasn't boring or anything. It just ends out of nowhere. Yeah. It never pays off. So I was entertained while I was reading it, thinking it was going to go further. And then all of a sudden it was like the end. And I'm like, wait,
I did like he goes, when Blacksad like just kind of figures it out, he goes to the docks to like look at see if he can see the stuff in the paintings. And he like sees the monkey. There's like a monkey at one of the docks. It's like what, like the guy checking boxes. They come in. He's like, "Hey, are these boxes going to Russia or whatever, or Russia or Germany?" And the monkey's like starts yelling in German like, "Ah, yeah. And like all these other monkeys, different types of monkeys jump out, and they have like a little brawl. There were some fun little moments. I like that they were nice and useful. The way that again you didn't really have people acting animals until there was like scuffles and stuff. And that was kind of fun.
Well, and like they would get cartoonish kind of animal fights, which is fun. That's how they should be if they look like this. The way that he draws them, it is more cartoony, even though they're anthropomorphic and whatnot. So
that's one thing. The monkey, so like they're monkey characters, but they still had like the way that the hands and feet were drawn. They were definitely more along the lines of that.
Maybe they're not as evolved.
I don't know.
That's why they're dock workers.
I don't know. But some of it was interesting choices like that. But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, basically this one, it would have been better if there was like some bigger ending or some like maybe there's Russian spies there too, and they're like actually real Russian spies, not just guys giving secrets to the government or whatever that are communists inside of America.
Yeah,
like they're actual Russians that are involved in stuff. Like I don't know, something
or like under Hydra note, like they're already like
Hydra.
Not Hydra, but like that kind of thing where they're like there's already people like involved in their inside.
Yes, maybe the McCarthy guy is Hydra, or is
something or is the Russian.
Yeah, something like that. Some other twist to add like a moment to it. Like the other one had like it's his daughter. He's married to his daughter.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I did not see that coming at all. So, yeah, and so I don't know. I guess that's all of it. What did you think, John?
I think overall, like we've said several times, the art in this is really cool. It's really unique. Definitely hadn't seen anything like this.
Beautiful.
And sometimes intense, and like some of the action sequences are really cool. And then some of the sexual sequences are like, whoa.
I like the abs and sex sequences.
Oh yeah, where it's like, oh man, that Arctic Fox's abs were like.
I was like, what is he, like a furry or something? Like he's like super into this anthropomorphic porn or something.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like I said, she had a polar bear face and head, but then like blonde bombshell, and then big furry white boobs. This is interesting and weird. Like in that context, is like I don't know if I should be aroused by this or not.
Let me answer that for you, John. You should not.
You should not. Right? No, I'm kidding.
Get out of this room.
No, but it was
actually, you know what? Hey, Everybody's got different
Yeah,
things.
don't kink shame me. That's what my thing is. How dare you, sir?
How have I known you for 15 years and you don't know? I didn't know that was your kink. That's what.
Anyway, but the art is really cool in this, and it's a unique take on a human-esque animal character. So that was cool. I like the first one as an introduction. I like the second story as like an actual like intense like whodunit kind of drama. Then the third act just kind of fell. So it's not acts. The third story just kind of fell off. It didn't hit as hard for me. But overall, I liked it. I would totally I would pick up one more just to see.
Oh yeah, I would continue this.
Go.
It was good enough that I would be like, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to see where more stories are. So overall, I think I would probably give it a 7. Like it was good and it was unique enough. I was like, it kind of pushes it up from just being a middle of the road. But it just didn't quite hit as hard as
this collection or
yeah, the collection is a 7. So it definitely again it's not middle of the road. It's not like a 5 or 6. Not like an average. Like
it's above average.
It's above average, but it just didn't quite hit as hard as I hoped it would to finish. So
yeah. For this collection, it's weird for me because the first one was a little boring, a little by the numbers, but I was seeing introduction. Like, okay, cool. Second one, I was like, it's a little heavy handed, but I'm on board with this story. So the story was interesting, and I was down with it. Then the third one, I was down with the story because I'm like, okay. Now I'm into this character and everything, but the story didn't go anywhere, so it left me hanging. So I was like, God damn it. It's hard for me to figure out like where I wanted in this too, but I think I'm going to go with the 7 too. I would give this collection to someone. I'd be like, this is a cool character. Check it out. I think nowadays most people are okay with heavy-handedness because most of the shit we watch is heavy-handed anyway. Yeah. So I don't think that just bugs me personally, but most people don't give a fuck about it. And so, and the same with like the Red Scare and stuff like that. All that stuff was super heavy-handed too, because it's like obviously we're talking about McCarthy. Like did you know that that there was people called beatniks who were communists and they didn't make a job? They couldn't get a job because they were labeled communist. Like this history lesson. I guess if you never heard it, would be like, what the fuck is this about? It'd be interesting or more like intriguing. But for me, I'm like, I already know all this stuff. I've already researched this specific history for so many times in my years in college and all that stuff. So I'm very, very collegiate. I'm very schooled.
You lettered in McCarthyism.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very into McCarthyism. But yeah, so this was a little just like, okay, I know pretty much exactly what's going to happen in this, and nothing was surprising, and then it ends kind of fast. But I did feel like his story arc was good in that specific issue, falling in love, setting it up with her, we're gonna go to this place and get married, and then he couldn't because he got arrested and all that stuff. So I thought that was a good arc in that run. Or in that issue, but I didn't care about the main story in that issue. So
yeah.
I'm gonna give this one a 7 too. The art fucking brings it up. It would be a 6 if the art wasn't so good for me, but the art was so fucking good. We'll give it a 7. Hey, if you like anthropomorphic stuff though, definitely check this out. This is some really, really beautiful anthropomorphic art. Especially if you're into the kink that John's into, you want to see some.
It's that rad erotica that John Oliver likes too.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're into that thing, that kind of stuff, cool. We know no shame here. But check out Blacksad. It is fantastic, wonderful French comic. Leave it to the French to make hot animals in noir comics. So yeah. On that note, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, at gmail.com.
Don't forget about our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We'll chat you on the next one.
Yep, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.